Hi again, second graders. We're going to take another look at the story Little Flap Learns to Fly. In a fictional story like this one, so a made-up story, key details are details that give important information about the characters, settings, and events. How do we determine if a detail is a key detail, a very important detail? We ask ourselves questions like, does this detail help me understand what a character is doing? Does this detail give me important information about what is happening? Does this detail help me picture or understand characters and events? We can find key details as we read in both the text, so the words of the story, or in the illustrations, the pictures that go along with the story. Illustrations can sometimes provide details that are not found in the text, so we might see something in a picture that's not directly said in the story. Illustrations can also help you to better understand the words that are spoken in the story. So let's go ahead and read this story again, and we're going to stop and talk about some key details as we read. Little Flap was happy living in his nest. His friends, Fluff and Tuff, lived in the nest next to him. Every morning they sang songs together. Their parents brought them worms to eat. One day Fluff asked, "Can we get our own worms?" Tuff said, "We can if we learn to fly." Fluff said, "Yes, let's learn to fly." Little Flap peered over the edge of his nest. It was very high up. When he looked down, the ground seemed very far away. He felt scared. He was too afraid to tell his friends about his fear, so he kept his feelings a secret. Fluff said, "Let's practice flapping our wings. It will make them strong. Watch." Tuff and Little Flap watched Fluff. Then they copied her actions. So let's stop right there. So I can visualize as I'm reading how Little Flap is feeling about the thought of learning how to fly. I can see in the picture right here that Little Flap is looking nervously at the ground. That tells me that he is nervous about flying. So if I'm keeping track of key details, I might write a sentence saying something like, Little Flap looks nervous about flying. Okay, and this is an important detail because it tells me about one of the main characters, and it tells me about how he's feeling during one of the most important parts of this story. And I'm able to better understand this detail by looking at the picture. I can see how nervous Little Flap is as he peers over the edge. And then I also could read it in the text too, because the text says right here on page 24, he felt scared. He was too afraid to tell his friends about his fear, so he kept his feelings a secret. All right, let's keep reading and see if we can find some more key details. Soon it was time to fly. Little Flap could no longer keep his feelings a secret. He asked, "Will I fall? I don't want to get hurt." Tuff said, "You can depend on Fluff and me. We're your friends." Fluff said, "I have an idea. We will go first and show you how. Then you can try. If you fall, Tuff and I will rescue you." Tuff said, "Yes, we can save you." Tuff and Fluff jumped out of the nest. They flew. Little Flap looked down nervously. He still felt uneasy, but he felt braver with his friends. "Okay," he said, "let's try." So I can visualize now at this part of the story by looking up at the picture here. I see Little Flap's friends, Tuff and Fluff, and they look excited and willing to help Little Flap now that he's told them how scared he is of flying. So I can see their willingness to help. And then I also read in the text right here where Tuff said, "You can depend on Fluff and me. We're your friends." Then Fluff also said right here, "I have an idea. We will go first and show you how. Then you can try. If you fall, Tuff and I will rescue you." So because Tuff and Fluff are being such good friends, Little Flap right here, it says he agreed to try flying. Even though he was still looking down nervously, he was willing to try flying. So that could be another key detail. So we could say on page 25 that Little Flap decides to try flying with help from his friends. So let's read the rest of the story. The three birds stood together on the branch. They counted 1, 2, 3. Then they flapped their wings fast and jumped. Little Flap lifted high into the air. "You're flying just right," said Fluff. "You're flying perfectly," said Tuff. All three little birds landed in a patch of soft green grass. Little Flap said, "Now I know I can always depend on you, Fluff and Tuff. You are my friends." Then he found a big, juicy worm and shared it with his friends. Now Little Flap likes flying. So I can visualize this last key detail through both of these pictures. And see right here, Little Flap is trying flying with Fluff and Tuff. And then the picture here, I can see that Little Flap has caught in his own worm. And I can read in the text that now Little Flap likes flying. So with help from his friends, he found out he was able to depend on them to help him learn how to fly. So my last key detail in the story could be that Little Flap learns to fly and he likes it. So just to look back at our key details that tell us about our characters and our setting and what's the big events going on in our story. Little Flap looks nervous about flying. That's our first key detail. Then Little Flap decides to try flying with help from his friends. And then last, Little Flap learns to fly and he likes it. So these are all really important details that tell us about our main character in the story. And they also help us to better understand the main idea in the story, which is that Little Flap learns to fly. So we can use finding key details in our text to better understand the story. And we can also go back and find evidence in our text to help us understand, just like I was able to go back each time and look at which pictures and then which places in the text I was finding my ideas. So now you're going to have your own chance to do an activity like this in Seesaw, where you're going to look back through the story and then you're going to answer questions about the text.